Bombshell tonight. Nolan Wells audio distress call. Is it real?
37-second recording, 9 hours of work, and two completely opposite conclusions about what those 37 seconds actually contain. One side calling it evidence disturbing enough to demand arrests, the other calling it a doctored fabrication built to destroy a teenager's life. This is the fight currently tearing through the Nolan Wells case. And unlike almost everything else in this investigation, it isn't happening in a courtroom or a sealed file. It's happening in public in real time over a single piece of audio. Nobody can fully agree on what it says, so score. Hit that bell. The recording itself is not in dispute. On July 4th, around 4 p.m., a teenager aboard a boat near Horn Island called a private towing company Sea Tao, reporting the vessel was taking on water. "Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn and our bilge pump stopped working." The caller said, "We're sinking. Can y'all please come?" When the dispatcher asked how much water was coming in, the caller responded, "It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. We're going down, though." "And is everyone on board and in good health otherwise?" the dispatcher asked. "Yeah, everyone is on board." The caller said the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources released this recording publicly. That original audio, as released, is where the agreement ends. Janetta Brantley is a Texas-based audio engineer with 16 years of professional experience, a bachelor's degree in music production from Full Sail University, and her own audio post-production company, Audio Done Right. She later went on to earn a master's degree in entertainment business, and her professional background spans dialogue editing, dialogue cleanup, sound design, and post-production work across a career built around the technical skill of isolating and clarifying audio that would otherwise be difficult for an ordinary listener to parse. She wasn't investigating this case professionally. She was following it the way millions of others were, until she listened to the released recording and, in her own words, thought she heard something underneath the dispatcher's voice that she needed to check. "I know I didn't hear what I think I heard," she said, describing her first listen. "Is somebody yelling Nolan?" Ain't no way they're yelling Nolan when allegedly he wasn't on the boat. She imported the file into her professional audio system, Logic Pro X, and spent 9 hours isolating the background dialogue, separating the caller's voice from the dispatcher's, reducing frequencies, working to make quieter, more obscured sounds audible. 9 hours is not a casual weekend project. It represents the kind of sustained, methodical technical effort that professional audio restoration work typically requires. The same category of labor forensic audio labs invoice clients for at professional rates applied here by someone working entirely on her own initiative, for free, driven by her own curiosity about a case she had simply been following like everyone else. What she says she found stopped her cold. "I originally intended to continue much further," she said, "but once I separated the dispatcher from the boat and started concentrating exclusively on the background dialogue, what I believed I was hearing became extremely difficult for me to process emotionally, and I needed to take a mental break." She posted her enhanced version on July 26th. According to Brantley, the isolated background audio contains several specific phrases. She says she heard what sounded like, "Damn it, Bart, he's really dead now." She says she heard, "Can we cover this up?" She has described hearing, "You killed him and he's already dead" in the cleaned up background track, along with what she interprets as someone screaming Nolan's name, followed by "Nolan, wake up." She has been explicit that these are her own interpretation, based on her professional training, of audio she personally isolated and enhanced, not an official transcript, not a confirmed finding, not something any law enforcement agency has verified. She has also said, pointedly, that despite her enhanced recording being played on national platforms including Nancy Grace's program, no investigator has contacted her about her work. Her enhancement spread fast. Posts describing it claim she may have just broken this case wide open. That is precisely the kind of claim Russell Latino has spent the past several days trying to stop. Latino represents Bart Edmiston Jr., one of the three friends who traveled with Nolan to Horn Island. And the specific name Brantley says she heard in the enhanced audio. Latino went on News Nation's Cuomo and did not hold back. He called the enhanced recording a doctored audio paired with a fabricated transcript, arguing there is no legitimacy to what's circulating. His central technical argument: a transcript accompanying garbled or ambiguous audio functions like a script, priming a listener to hear specific words that may not actually be there once you're told, "Listen, for you killed him." He argued the brain often finds a way to hear exactly that, even in audio that without the transcript would sound like indistinct noise. That psychological mechanism has a real name in cognitive science: auditory pareidolia, the tendency of the human brain to perceive familiar patterns, including words and phrases, within genuinely ambiguous or random sound. It is the same phenomenon that causes people to hear specific lyrics in a song played backward once someone tells them what to listen for, or to hear a particular word in white noise once a transcript primes their expectations. Latino's argument, in effect, is that Brantley's enhancement, however professionally executed the technical processing itself may have been, produced ambiguous audio that a published transcript then shaped into a damning narrative the raw sound may not actually support. He described the broader phenomenon in blunt terms, comparing it to people treating this case like a board game. People online think it's fun to play Clue with other people's lives, Latino said. He confirmed Bart fully cooperated with investigators from the beginning, said there is no evidence tying him to Nolan's death, and stated his client's only role aboard the sinking boat was helping bail water as it went down. Latino has since sent a formal cease and desist letter to an OnlyFans-based public figure he accuses of separately spreading false claims and doxing Bart online, a legal escalation directly connected to how far this controversy has traveled. Then a third voice entered this fight, one with no personal stake in either side and considerably more forensic authority than either Brantley or Latino individually. Digital forensics expert Robert Fried examined a completely separate enhanced version of this same audio, one that TMZ had produced and circulated independently of Brantley's work. TMZ's version claimed listeners could hear someone asking, "Is he dead?" along with fragments including "Nolan, check his chest," and "wake up." Fried's technical finding: TMZ's enhanced version is 20 seconds longer than the original recording, and it carries a different digital fingerprint entirely, not simply a processed version of the same file, but audio with meaningfully different underlying technical data from the original released recording. A digital fingerprint in forensic audio work refers to the unique technical signature embedded in a file, compression patterns, encoding artifacts, the specific digital trail left behind by whatever software and process actually created that file, to two recordings genuinely derived from the same original source, processed through legitimate enhancement software, should generally retain a traceable relationship in their underlying data, even after significant audio processing. A completely different fingerprint suggests something more than ordinary enhancement occurred somewhere in that file's history. Fried could not verify TMZ's most dramatic claims. That finding does not directly address Brantley's separate enhancement, which used different software and different techniques, and which Fried has not been reported to have independently examined using the same forensic methodology. But it establishes something critical for anyone trying to understand this fight honestly. At least one of the enhanced versions circulating publicly does not forensically match the original file it claims to be based on, a finding that should make any listener more cautious about treating any unofficial enhancement from any source as a reliable transcript of what was actually said. Not every expert who has reviewed this case's audio agrees with either Brantley's or TMZ's darkest interpretations. Retired FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam reviewed the original recording directly for Fox News Digital and reached a very different conclusion. "I don't hear anything nefarious," Gilliam said. "It just sounded like there was a lot of stuff going on, that they were taking on water, not panic, as much as this young person was trying to resolve a situation in a party atmosphere." He went further. making an argument specifically about what the act of calling for help actually signals. If the group aboard that boat had done something they needed to hide, Gilliam argued, calling a towing company, a call guaranteed to draw official attention and generate a paper trail, is precisely the opposite of what someone concealing a crime would do. Gilliam's background gives that argument real weight. Years spent evaluating exactly this kind of behavioral pattern, what people under genuine stress actually do, versus what people trying to conceal wrongdoing typically do, is precisely the professional expertise federal investigators bring to interpreting ambiguous evidence like a background recording. Someone actively covering up a death, in Gilliam's framing, does not typically invite a third-party company, a dispatcher, and an eventual paper trail into the exact moment they're trying to hide. That is not proof nothing happened. It is one experienced federal investigators read, standing directly against the darkest interpretation currently circulating, Nancy Grace, never one to avoid a hard conclusion, addressed the competing audio directly on her program without fully endorsing either extreme. Burr reporter Deborah Becker, reviewing the same material, offered a more measured technical assessment. Significant portions of the background audio remain too garbled, even after enhancement, for any listener to confidently discern specific words. That single observation cuts against both the most dramatic interpretation and the flattest dismissal. If large sections of this recording are genuinely too degraded to parse with confidence, then neither "you killed him" nor "nothing happened here" can be stated with the certainty either side has projected publicly. Here is what makes this fight different from almost every other controversy this case has produced. This is not a dispute between people withholding information. It is a dispute between multiple parties who have all listened to the exact same 37 seconds of sound and walked away with fundamentally incompatible accounts of what it contains. Brantley, using traditional audio engineering techniques she has publicly documented, believes she heard specific disturbing phrases. Latino, representing a young man specifically named in that interpretation, calls the entire enhancement fabricated. Freed's forensic analysis found a completely different enhanced version, TMZ's, does not match the original file's digital signature. Gilliam, with decades of federal investigative experience, hears nothing nefarious in the original recording at all. Becker notes that much of it may simply be unintelligible. Regardless of anyone's enhancement technique, 5 credentialed voices, 5 different conclusions. None of these 5 voices actually have access to the original unprocessed source file, examined using forensically validated methodology by a lab with no stake in the outcome, whose findings have been formally submitted to and confirmed by the actual investigators running this case. Every single interpretation currently circulating, the disturbing one, the innocent one, with the technically skeptical one, has been produced outside that process. Zell official verification from anyone with actual investigative authority over this case. That absence of official verification is not incidental. It may be the single most important fact in this entire controversy. No law enforcement agency has confirmed what the enhanced audio does or does not contain. No forensic audio lab working directly for investigators has published its own independent analysis for the public to compare against Brantley's or TMZ's competing versions. 6 weeks into a case that has already produced a fabricated toxicology report, a viral misidentification of who was actually shouting in a separate video, and now dueling audio enhancements with opposite conclusions, the pattern is impossible to ignore. Every time official information has stayed sealed or delayed, someone, sometimes well-intentioned, sometimes not, has stepped into that vacuum with their own version of the truth. That pattern is not unique to this case, but it is played out here with unusual consistency. A sealed autopsy produced a fake toxicology report. An unclear video produced a false identification of who was speaking. Now, an ambiguous audio recording has produced two competing enhanced versions, each claiming to reveal what the other missed or fabricated. Some of those versions turn out to be fabricated. Some may turn out to be accurate. Right now, without official forensic confirmation, there is no way for the public to reliably distinguish between the two, and that inability is not a failure of public attention or curiosity, but a direct consequence of how long the actual verifiable answers have remained sealed. The stakes of getting this specific wrong are not abstract. A specific named 18-year-old, someone who has already spent weeks under intense national scrutiny for a day his own attorney says he spent trying to bail water from a sinking boat, now has his name attached to language an audio engineer says she heard, but that no investigator has confirmed exists in any verified form. That weight accumulates for weeks with no official resolution in sight. Every day this remains unverified is another day a young man's name sits attached in millions of people's minds to language implying he participated in a killing and its cover-up, language that may or may not actually exist in the audio it's supposedly drawn from. That burden does not wait for forensic labs to finish their work. It accumulates in real time in comment sections, in threats serious enough that this case has already produced federal prosecutions against people who turned online speculation into criminal conduct. If those alleged phrases are genuinely present in the original recording, that is a serious, significant development this case's investigators need to formally address. If they are not, if Latino's doctored transcript characterization holds up under actual forensic review, then a teenager's name has been connected to language implying murder and cover-up based on an enhancement process that priming, suggestion, and genuinely difficult audio conditions could plausibly have produced without any of it reflecting what was actually said. Both possibilities are serious. Only one of them is true, and right now, nobody outside a private audio engineer's home studio and a defense attorney's office has the forensic standing to say definitively which one it is. Nolan Xavier Wells was 18 years old. He went to Horn Island on July 4th and never came home. A 37-second recording made by his friends as their boat began sinking has become one of the most contested pieces of evidence in his entire case. Not because anyone disputes what was said out loud clearly to the dispatcher, but because of what some listeners believe exists underneath it. An audio engineer says she heard confessions of a cover-up. A defense attorney says she heard nothing but a doctored fabrication. A forensic expert says at least one competing version doesn't match the original file at all. A former FBI agent says the original recording shows nothing nefarious. A reporter says much of it may simply be too garbled to know for certain. None of those 5 accounts came from the one place that could actually settle this. An official forensic lab working directly for investigators with the authority to publish findings the public and the courts could both rely on. Until that specific step happens, this fight over 37 seconds of sound will keep producing exactly what it has produced for the past 2 weeks. Competing certainty on every side about a recording nobody outside a private engineer's studio has actually had forensically confirmed. If you have any real information about what happened to Nolan Wells on Horn Island, contact investigators directly. Tips.bi. Gov or 1-800-SOL-FBI. The combined reward is now $175,000 subver. Hit that bell, 37 seconds of audio, 5 experts, Zell agreement. Until an official forensic lab with actual investigative authority settles this specific fight, every version of what that recording says, the disturbing one, the innocent one, the one still circulating online right now, remains exactly what it currently is. Unconfirmed. That word matters more than any single phrase anyone claims to have heard in 37 seconds of garbled background noise. Not false. Not true. Unconfirmed, the same word this entire case has been forced to sit with, from the sealed autopsy to the boat's exact departure time to the identity of a man on a boat deck again and again for 6 straight weeks.